In this lesson, we are going to talk about Pydantics data validation. So let's first understand what is Pydantics. For Pydantics, the Python library is used for data modeling, data parsing, and has very efficient error handling. It is commonly used as a resource for data validation and how to handle coming to our fast API application. So we are going to add a lot of data validation to our query path parameters and other stuff. So we will be implementing Pydantics with the following way. We will create different request model for data validation, and we will field data validation on each variable. So let's say we have the class book request, which is inheriting from the Pydantics base model. We have the attributes, we have for the book, we have the ID, we have the title, we have the order, we have the description, we have the rating, and for each of these fields we are going to do the validation. So the title is going to be string and is going to be a field with minimum length of 3, which means the title of the book must be of minimum length of 3 and more. The order is going to be a field, and the order's length is going to be minimum 1 character, 1 and more. So the description is going to be from 1 to 100 characters, so you need to write your description between these 1 and 100 characters. The rating is going to be greater than 0 and less than 5, so GT and LT stand for greater than and less than. So before moving on to create the Python file to run our fast API application, we will now use a book class to use it for creating book instances. We have the class book, so we have the ID, title, order, description, rating, publish date. We are going to initialize this book class, so we're going to have the init, the constructor, we have the self ID, we have the self title, and etc. Later we are going to have the books list where it's like a simple data, random data of 6 books instances, where each of the book instance has its own ID, its own title, order, description, rating, and the publish date. And we are going to, let's say, implement one get request where we are going to return all the books with the /books endpoint. So now this is without any validation. So now what we are going to do, we are going to add validation to the post request when we are creating a book, and we are going to say whenever we are creating a book, it is going to be of type book request validated by Pydantics. So we'll convert the Pydantics request into a book, and how this is going to be look like. So here we are going to say that the new book is going to equal the book, and to book request.dict, this operator double asterisk is going to be double star is going to be operator will pass the key value from the book request into book constructor. So first, let's create a simple post request to create a book without any validation. So first, let's do without any validation. So we are going to use the script. We are going to take the script. We're going to copy it. We're going to take it to our main.py. It's our main.py. Let's say we're going to save this script. Now I'm going to get rid of this. We don't need any validation here. We're not going to use this anymore, not this one. So all we need is we're going to run the script to understand whether it first works or not. So in order to do that, I'm going to first open a terminal, Windows PowerShell. I'm going to navigate to my part where it is located, my Python script, and I am now going to run my Fast API application with the ubicorn main up -- reload. So if I run this, I will see that everything works correctly, and if I go to localhost docs, I can see that I have the get request, where if I go and just try it out and execute this, I will get the list of all the books. So we have, as you can see, all the 6 books here. Also we have the post request, where I can go and create just book, which is the, I go and try it out. so it's going to be the book request required. So this is not anything validated yet, so we are going to add some more validation so that you understand like how to validate this everything. So let's now go to our main script. So here now if I want to validate my book request, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class book request, which is going to be validated from the Pydantic base model. It is going to be having the ID, the title, the author, description, the rating, the publish date, and now when I'm going to have the post request, we are going to say that async dev creating the book, and the book request is going to be of type of book request, is validated with the Pydantic base model. And for the new book, I'm going to say this is going to be an instance of book plus the book request.dict in this case. And in the end, I'm going to append to the books the new book I've just posted. So if we now go and add the validation to this, so if I go and now change this, if I go and change the post request now, in the main.py, if I go and just change the post request here, if I also go and add our book request with base model, so in the main.py, let's say I'm going to just let's copy paste it here, and now when I go and see that this is automatically refreshed, so if I go to our localhost docs and in the get the books, you can again try it out that everything works smooth. And now if I just go and see in the post request, if I go and try it out, you can see that now it's going to be giving me an example value where ID is an integer, the title is string, the author is string, description is string, rating is 0, and the publish date is 0. So this is everything already validated. So if I just go and give example values, for example like this, let's say ID of 10, and the other strings, for example, and if I go just execute this, you will see that our books is added by one more item and everything works correctly. So now here I'm going to also give you some hints how to improve this everything. It will be of course one of the major improvements here. It would be if this example string is something useful, like kind of an ID where we can have the ID incremented by 1 so that we don't recall every time how many books we have in the data. And also if the example string is going to be something useful, like not like this, like title of some default order, the title of some default order, for example, it can be any order, it can be the description with some rating and the publish date, not like this string 0 and publish date 0 values. So in order to accomplish this, so in order to increment ID by 1, what we are going to do, we are going to add an auxiliary findBook ID function, and it's going to be saying that if book ID is going to be equal to 1, if the length of the books is equal to 0, else it's going to get me the books minus 1 ID and then just increment it by 1 and return me this book. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change my post request and say when we are creating the book, I don't need to specify anymore the ID because ID is automatically going to be incremented by 1. So this is going to be now the books append find book ID new book. So we are going to say that the ID is going to automatically be incremented by 1. So here we can also, as ID is not necessary, we can make it already optional parameter. So we are going to make it optional. We can just say that now our book in the book request, the ID parameter is going to be optional. So I can go and change this here in the book request. So this is going to be new book request where ID is the optional. I am going to change my post request to look like this. Okay, so I'm going to change the post request. And the other thing I already told you that we need to change this example value what is given in fast API. This is a bug, so we need to now change it to JSON schema extra. Here we have the books request, and we now want to give an example value where, for example, it can be a title of new book, an order of Arman, description of a book, rating of 5, and published, let's say 2009. That's a random value. So if I now go and change the class book request like this, and if I just see that my application is reloaded, and if I go to localhost.docs, and I can now go and see that in the create book post request I have already the request body, so where I have an example value, a very nice example value where I have the author of Arman, description, and the publish date, the rating, and the title, not like just random values of 0 or string or something. It's far more beautiful, and you can see that here I don't need the ID parameter, it is optional, so I can go just add this to my books. So if I go and just execute this, we will see that I'm getting or some parameter saying is missing. Let's have a look what is it saying. I guess let's change this optional. Yeah, so if I just go and now execute this order and the title, the publish date, like everything here is, I guess, correct. If I go and just execute this, it should work. It's saying that ID is missing. Maybe something is not reloaded. Let's make it this not optional parameter for now. Let's make it also, let's give the ID parameter. Let's also specify here the ID parameter. For this, let's fix this bug. Let's make it. Let's first get rid of this, maybe something is going wrong. Let's add the example value and then add also the ID, which is, let's say, going to be some value of 8. I'm going to save this and I'm going to paste everything here to our save everything. If and then now go, I forgot to put the com here, and now if I save everything, and now my application is restarted. So if I go to localhost docs, and if I now go for the creating of the books, let's first understand that we have all the books now. This is the get request. If I try it out and I execute this, I can see that I have all the books. Everything works fine. And then if I go to say the post request and then I go say and try it out, ID is going to be 8. So if I go and execute this, everything is going to be perfect, so it doesn't give me a response code of 200, so everything worked fine, and with the example value given in the class configs. So this is how you can add more validation to your query path parameters, how you can validate your request body so that everything works smoothly with a nice example value, how you can post something. So in the next lesson we are going to add some more validation.